grace. You are Yehovah. Thank you, Abba, that you are the all-living, constantly being one. Thank you, Abba, for your Torah and your Spirit. I ask that you braid them together in the name of Yeshua. Amen. You may be seated. You are going to be quizzed today. There is a quiz. But this is a good quiz. This is like a lot of question quiz. Many question quiz. Before we get to that, if you have your Bible, turn to Exodus 20. Going back to the Torah portion from last week, Yitro, to look at the part of the 10 words. The very beginning, Exodus 20, verse 2. I am Yehovah, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. So we're going to look at the 10 words. But down in verse 5, when he's talking about idolatry, when he's saying no idolatry, he says, for I, Yehovah, your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children, on the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing loving kindness, chesed, to thousands, to those who love me and keep my mitzvot. Now this is in the 10 words, in the 10 commandments. And then in Exodus 33, when God passes in front of Moshe and he proclaims his name, he proclaims the name of the Lord, he says in verse 6, the Lord passed by in front of him and proclaimed, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachom v'chanun erech apayim v'rav chesed ve'emet notzer chesed la'alafim, which we just sang. The Lord, compassionate and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in loving kindness and truth, who keeps loving kindness for thousands, who forgive iniquity, transgression, and sin. Now, the reason we're reading this before we do the quiz and look at the teaching is because this is the answer to all the questions that you're not going to know. So, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 10 words. And I've told you this before, but we've never really looked at it. I've told you before that it's not 10 words, really, 10 commandments. It's like chapter headings. And all of the 603 other mitzvot fall under the chapter headings of what's called, quote, the 10 commandments. So there's some that we're going to read that I'm going to say to you, okay, which one is that? And you're not going to know. You're just not going to know. This is the answer. So this is the fill-in-the-blank answer to the quiz, okay? You're not going to know the answer, and the answer is number 1. I am Yehovah. What does that mean? Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'chanun, erech apayim, etc. The Lord, God, merciful, gracious. So if it gives a, quote, law, and it'll say, like, don't rape or whatever, and that's easy. It's an easy one. But then there's going to be some that it'll say something like, go up and keep the feasts, or don't treat your neighbor badly. Well, which one of the 10 is that? And so this is the answer to all those that we're not going to know. It's number 1, I am Yehovah. All right, so here's what we're in right now. It's Mishpatim, Shemot 21. It says in Hebrew, Ve'ele hamishpatim asher tasim lifneihem. Ve'ele, these are, remember we read from right to left in the Hebrew. Ve'ele, these are, and these are, hamishpatim, the judgments. Mishpat is a judge or a judgment. Asher, that. Tasim, you will do or you will put or you will make. Lifneihem, before their face. To them. The way they translate it is now, these are the judgments which you are to set before them. So, first we're going to look at the phrase 10 Commandments. Now, you've heard this all your life. You've seen it all your life. People sell plaques of the Ten Commandments. They got big plaques of the Ten Commandments in like state buildings and, city buildings and stuff like that. Sculptures and carved out of granite of the Ten Commandments and things like that. They're all over. Little scrolls, right? They're all over the place. And everybody calls them the Ten Commandments. So much so that even in the Orthodox Tanakh, it translates it Ten Commandments, even though they know better. They even say what the Hebrew means, and yet they still translate it Ten Commandments. And I guess it's just because that's what everybody calls it. But really, it's not 10 commandments. And there's only 3 verses in the whole Torah that say this phrase, 10 commandments. And it doesn't say 10 commandments. And I'm showing it to you in Hebrew and in English. Exodus 34:28, he was there with the Lord. He's up on Mount Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights, and he ate no bread and he drank no water, and he inscribed upon the tablets the words of the covenant. Now, this is what we're going to focus on, the covenant. The title of the teaching is The Covenant is Torah. We talked about this at the end of the teaching last week, that Moses is the covenant that God made with his people, his body. Moses is the covenant. Moses, the Torah is called Moses in the New Testament. In the New Testament, Torah is called Moses, and which we'll look at a little bit later again, that God made a covenant, and the covenant is called the Torah, called Moses. So here it says, he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant. Well, if the covenant was all of the Torah, he didn't inscribe all of the Torah, right? So he inscribed 10 chapter headings. That's why they're chapter headings. All of the Torah falls under these 10 words, all of them. And it says, in Hebrew, Aseret Hadvarim. A davar is a thing or a word, not a commandment. So it's 10 words or 10 things. That's all it says. And the whole covenant God made with the whole universe with his people is 10 things. That's it. It never says 10 commandments. 10 things. Aseret Hadvarim. Then in Deuteronomy 4:13, so he told you his covenant, again with the covenant, that he established for you to do. That is the 10 things, or 10 words, and he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone. The 2 tablets of stone containing the 10 things is the covenant. Therefore, and by the way, the tablets of stone were not rounded on top. They were squares. Did you know that? They were perfect squares. No, they were not cubes. They were perfect squares. 1 cubit by 1 cubit. That's correct. So this big, from here to here, square. And it had written on them, the covenant. So therefore, those 2 tablets, they're Moses. Right? Right? Because Moses is the Torah, Moses is the covenant. And that's what God wrote on there. So, why is Moses the covenant? Because there's 2 of them. In Deuteronomy 18:15 and 18:18, it says this. It says, I'm going to bring somebody from your brothers who's exactly like Moshe. Listen to everything he says. And it's talking about the Messiah. So you have Moses and you have the Messiah, but they're one and the same. So this is, by the way, the tip of the iceberg. It's just the beginning of the fact that Moses is the covenant. And I'm going to be driving this home maybe even more than last week and this week. I don't know. But this is a very, very, very important concept, that Moses is the covenant for the body of Messiah. Torah is the covenant for the body of Messiah. Moses is the covenant for the body of Messiah. So in Deuteronomy 4, he says, he told you his covenant that he established for you to do. That is the 10 words. And again, it's Hebrew, Aseret Hadvarim, the 10 things. Deuteronomy 10:4, he wrote on tablets, like the former writing, the 10 words. which the Lord had spoken to you on the mountain from the midst of the fire, and the Lord gave them to me. Aseret hadavarim in Hebrew. Again, 10 words. Nowhere in the Bible, nowhere does it say 10 commandments. Nowhere. It always says, and these are the only instances of it, 10 words. And that's the covenant. Now, here's what I'm going to try to tie in. That, by the way, what I'm going to tell you right now is common knowledge in the first century. But we've lost this. And it's this, that when somebody comes to God, they become somebody different. Jew or Gentile, they become somebody different. They're a new creation. And as they're doing the Torah, they're walking like a baby, like somebody else, like a new person. And they get bigger and bigger, and they learn more, and they walk better and walk better. And this was the common knowledge for a couple thousand years, but it got lost when the temple was destroyed and when Hellenistic Christianity began to spread. This got lost. So I'm going to try to tie this in. And this is the best verse I can think of to tie it in. And it's this concept that we lived natural and then we're going to live spiritual. We did all that. We did the way of the world. And now we're going to live a spiritual way. But the Bible describes it very, very clearly. It's the covenant. The way to walk new is the covenant. That's what it is. God said, you got 1 million people down at the bottom of the mountain, and they're all like, okay, so what do we do now? God brought us out of Egypt and brought us to the mountain, and now what? And he says, here's the covenant. Here's what you do. Here's what you do. Lalechet, to walk. If there's a natural body, there's also a spiritual body. Now, it is talking about the resurrection in 1 Corinthians 15, but I want to apply it to just living a biblical life. That's all we're talking about, living the covenant. If there's a natural body, there's also going to be a spiritual body. Because it's written, the first man, Adam, became a living soul. The last Adam, that's the Messiah, became a life-giving spirit. Not a life-giving soul, a life-giving spirit. So, when we are born again, when anybody is born again, and I still find people who are confused about this, when people are born again, their spirits come to life. Before their spirits come to life, their spirit was dead. And then God lights the candle, and it can never be put out. So you hear people say, once saved, always saved. That's true. It's absolutely true. Bad words, but it's true. Once that candle is lit by God, it can never be put out. It doesn't make them smart. It doesn't make them spiritual. It doesn't make them anything. It just means their spirit is alive. That's all. And it's made alive because Yeshua is a life-giving spirit. He comes inside, makes our spirit alive. That's it. Make sense? Yes? Okay. Has nothing to do with the soul, has nothing to do with the body. It's just the spirit. So the first Adam came, he became a life-giving spirit, then he sinned and he killed everybody. And then Yeshua comes as the second Adam and makes those who want it come to life. However, and here's where I want to focus. However, the spiritual is not first, but the physical. The spiritual isn't first. The physical is first. Now, in most believers' lives, and rightly so, they're seeking after spiritual things. They want a spiritual life. They want to hear from God. They want to do spiritual things. They want to see miracles. They want, rightly so. That's good. Problem is, they skip over the physical. And if the physical is skipped, and by physical I mean physical Jewish things, because that's what God gave us. Physical Jewish acts. If that's skipped over, you don't then understand the spiritual things that are happening. It's impossible. So, the spiritual's not first, but the physical. then the spiritual. The first man is from the earth, earthy. The second man is from heaven. As is the earthy, that's the Gentile world. Would you agree? Yes? No? The Gentile world. We're going to have to do a lot of class participation today because we're going to come to a quiz. Would you agree that the Gentile world, just the regular Gentile world, is the earthy? It's the natural, the earthy way to live. Materialistic, right. All right, that's obvious. So we're going to call it is the Gentile world, the world of the 70 nations. It's just how everybody lives. As is the earthy, so are those who are earthy. It's just the way it is. And as is the heavenly, that's the Jewish world, so are all those who are heavenly. Just as we have borne the Gentile world, the Gentile way, we will also bear the heavenly. So everybody looks at that and they're like, okay, we're going to be, go in the resurrection and then we'll bear the heavenly. No! We're supposed to bear the heavenly now. And it just kind of becomes, we go in the resurrection and things just continue as they are for us. It's not a big change. So if somebody's walking in the Mishpatim, which we're going to look at, and they're doing the things, doing the, I don't want to call them laws, doing the covenant, doing the 10 things, if they're doing the details of the covenant, they are living a spiritual life. And God's going to talk to that person. And that's what he's saying. We bore the Gentile world, then we're going to bear the heavenly Jewish world. But it's for now. It's not just for heaven. It's for now. This is what the Aseret Hadvrim look like in the Torah scroll. And you'll see a little blue dot. You'll see 10 of them. That's the beginning of each law, each word, each thing. First one says, Anochi Yehovah Elohecha, I am the Lord your God. Second one says, Lo ta'aseh lecha pesel, you shall not make to you an idol. No idolatry. Third one says, Lo tisa et sham Adonai Elohecha l'saveh, right here, l'saveh. Lo tisa et sham Adonai Elohecha, et shem Adonai Elohecha l'saveh, which is, you shall not use God's name for lies, for vanity, for nothing. For nothing. Probably the best translation. But what I have is no using God's name for vanity. Please don't get offended. The whole world has no clue what using God's name in vain means. It does not mean what people say it means. It means using his authority for you. For me. Using God's authority for me. For what I want. Using God's name, putting his, like his seal in the wax, putting his seal, his name on what I want.
Like people saying, I swear to God.
Yeah, but much, much bigger. I'll tell you a story. There was I went to a Messianic conference, and there was a woman who spent close to $500,000. I got some of that money. Close to $500,000 to prepare for her wedding. She bought tons of artwork, not just from me, from other artists, and she bought all kinds of stuff. She got invitations printed. She did all this. She'd never met the guy. But she swore up and down and sideways that God spoke to her that she was going to marry this Jewish man. He was the owner of the shopping channel. And she went outside his big compound that had a huge wall around it with her best buddy, and they anointed it as they walked around it, but they anointed it with suntan oil because that's all they had. And I'm not kidding. And she was 100% convinced that God had spoken this to her. And I've met other people who are 100% convinced that God has spoken something to them. And they build this giant construct that is so complicated. And they spend money on it and time on it. And I've met maybe 10 people like this in my life. This was the biggest, though, because she gave me the most money. And I gladly took the money, by the way. I gladly took it. I knew she was wrong. I knew it was a lie. I knew the whole thing was nonsense. But you know what? She'll have that artwork in her house, and maybe it'll speak to her. You never know. It's all biblical stuff. So that's taking the Lord's name for vanity. It's not saying GD. It's nothing like that. The next one, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat. Zachor et Yom HaShabbat. You shall remember the Shabbat. Now this one's tricky because God's voice divided up into different tongues, right? Different streams of fire. Yeah? How many streams of fire did it divide into? 70. Good. So one of them here said, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat. It doesn't say that in Deuteronomy in the parallel passage. It says Shemor et Yom HaShabbat, which is guard or keep the Shabbat. So how can it say Zachor here in God's holy word and then Shemor somewhere else in the same event? It's a different word because it was different words. That God can do that, that's right. So here it's Zachor et, you shall remember to keep the Shabbat. Next one is Kavod et avicha ve'et amecha. Kavod et avicha ve'et amecha. Anybody know who was the greatest person in the whole Bible about honoring their father and mother? Not Moses, nope. Aaron, nope. Good guess though, good guesses. Jacob, nope. He was bad at it, by the way. Anybody else? Nope, not Isaac. Isaac, you'd think that would be the one, right? Because he laid his life down and said, Daddy, kill me. You'd think, no. It's going to shock you who it is. Joseph? Nope. Not Esther. Esau. Isn't that weird? Esau was so great with honoring his father and mother that he put Jacob to shame. And there's lots and lots of stories in the Talmud about Esau honoring his mom and dad. And that's, by the way, the only thing in his whole life that he has as like a good thing on the balances. Good check mark, on that side. Everything else is evil about Esau. But about honoring his parents, giving them glory, he was fantastic. He is to be learned from in that respect. Lo tirtzach, no murder. Lo tirtzach. The next one, lo tinaf, no adultery. Lo tignov, no stealing. Yes, they're very similar. And then lo ta'ana bi'echa ad sheker. Now this word sheker means lies or falseness, okay? Rabbi Alon Aleva always quotes in the Talmud where it says that this world is an olam hasheker, a world of lies, a world of vanity, the way of the Gentiles, the world of vanity. And what it says literally in Hebrew is, you shall not oppress your neighbor with a word of lies. That's what it says literally in Hebrew. We translate it, don't bear a false witness, don't be a false witness. But literally it says, you shall not oppress your neighbor with a word or an oath of lies. And then the last one, it's repeated several times. Lo tachmod. I'm sorry, that's you shall not bear false witness. No, that's it. That's the last one. That's it. Lo tachmod. It should say it more than once. There it is again. Lo tachmod. You shall not covet. Lo tachmod. Don't covet, don't covet, don't covet, don't covet. Now, when we were young, when we were kids, and we just got married, and we started the congregation a few years later, and we had the congregation just a couple years, Eileen had a stroke of absolute genius we were talking about the 10 words. And she was teaching the kids, and she came up with these pictographs to help you remember what the 10 commandments are, the 10 words are. And why did she do this? Because everybody says something different. Like if you Google 10 commandments in the Wikipedia and all that on the internet, you're going to find 5 different ways to number them. 5 different ways to number them. Nobody listens to the way the Jews number them. Everybody listens to the Protestant way and the Catholic way, but nobody listens to the way the Jews did it. And this is the way the Jews did it. Number 1 is not, you shall not have other gods before me, no idolatry. It's I am Yehovah. That's number 1. That is the table of contents under which falls many, many, many mitzvot. I am Yehovah. So it's just a 1 because God is 1. That's easy. Number 2, see that sad face in the 2? That's an idol. A pesel, that's an idol. So, no idolatry. Number 3, Eileen couldn't remember this one. I had to call her because I couldn't remember it, and I called her and I said, what was that 3 for the pictograph? And she couldn't remember, and I couldn't remember. And then as soon as I hung up the phone, I remembered. It's lips. You turn it sideways, and it's lips. No using God's name for yourself. Lips. See? Nose, mouth. Number 4, this is easy. You flip the 4 upside down, it's a chair. Shabbat, relax, right. Take it easy on Shabbat. Number 5, there's 2 spaces. One is square, kind of harsh, and one is round and soft. Daddy and mommy. Yeah, daddy and mommy. So honor daddy and mommy. Number 6, I think this one's clever. Just turn that 6 sideways and it's a gun. No murder. No murder. Number 7, this is also clever. Turn it sideways and it's a bed. Now I was going to draw more on the bed, but I decided not to. 8 is also pretty simple. It's a money bag. Got a big bottom, small top, circle, circle. It's a money bag, no stealing. And number 9, now this doesn't even relate to nowadays. It's a telephone. What the heck is that? It's a telephone. That's when we came up with it, there were actual phones, but now there's no phones. But maybe that'll help you remember. Looks like a phone. And then number 10, there's a person that's 1 and then a person that's 0. If you take away from 1, what do you have? 0. And so the one in the 0 is looking over like, what can I get? What can I get? So these really help. To this day, this is what I picture in my head. Yeah, it really works very well. So, wait, what's number 4? What's number 4? Shabbat. What's number 5? Mommy and daddy. Honor your parents. What's number 9? The phone, right. What is it? Yeah, no lying, no bearing false witness, no chisme, right? No chisme on the phone. All right, what's number 2? Pesel, no idolatry, good. What's number 3? Turn it sideways. No false witness. No using God's name. No using God's name. Yeah, those are easy to mix up. What's number 7? No adultery. No adultery. Okay. Aseret HaDevarim, the 10 words. Now, we're going to go through a whole bunch of the Mishpatim. And you're going to tell me, is it number 1, number 2, number 3? Well, don't do it like that. Say the actual mitzvah that you think it is. Is it the actual devar, thing? Is it no idolatry? Is it I am the Lord? Is it no adultery? Now, I'm going to tell you this. In Mishpatim, there's 210, I believe it is, mitzvot that are given in Mishpatim, in this Torah portion alone. Something like 210, I believe. Most of them are mishpatim. Not all of them, but most of them are mishpatim. What's a mishpat? A judgment. That means money. A judgment means, by nature, money. When you have a bunch of people in a community and you got issues to deal with, most of them are about money. Yes? That's why they're mishpatim. So most of these are going to be number what? It's about money. What number? 8. No stealing. Most of them are going to be no stealing, but not all of them. Say it again. Say it again. Isn't what's supposed to be no kidnapping? No, number 8 is no stealing. No stealing. And there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things in the Talmud that break down each mishpat. Only one of them is not stealing a human. Only one. All the others are about money. Okay, 21:2. If you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve for 6 years, but on the 7th he shall go out as a free man without payment. What is it? What number? What mishpat? Huh? 8. Money? Yes? No. You didn't read the numbers there. What are the numbers?
If he serves for 6 years on the 7th, he goes out to free man without payment.
Yes, Shabbat. This is Shabbat. Now, this is a double mitzvah because it is about money and it is about him doing Shabbat, the 7th year, the Shemitah year, which is Shabbat. It's a whole year of Shabbat. Okay? You got it? That's going to come up again. Yes? You seem confused. Did you get that or not? It's a double mitzvah. You could say it's number 8, about money, don't steal. It's also number 4, keep Shabbat. 21:7, if a man sells his daughter as a female slave, she is not to go free like the male slaves do. If she's displeasing in the eyes of her master, who chooses her for himself, he does not have authority to sell her to a foreign people. If he takes to himself another woman, he may not reduce her food, clothing, and conjugal rights. That's what's in your ketubah. Not reduce the food, clothing, and conjugal rights. So, which one is this?
No stealing.
That's correct. No stealing. Number 8. Because you cannot diminish her food, her clothing, and her conjugal rights because it belongs to her. It's due her. 21:12. He who strikes a man so that he dies shall surely be put to death. If he did not lie in wait, but God let him fall into his hand, I will appoint a place to which he may flee. If, however, a man acts presumptuously toward his neighbor so as to kill him craftily, you are to take him even from my altar that he may die. What's this one? 6, no murder. But then it's got that part in there that's not about murder. That if he doesn't die, what is that about? It's a judgment. So what's it about? Right, money, stealing. So anything that is in Mishpatim, where you go before the judges and you say, this is what happened, and the judge rules, it's going to be a money judgment. And we're going to come across this again. It's always a money judgment. If it's not a money judgment, it's going to be capital punishment. The 4 ways to kill in Judaism. Anybody know what they are? Stoning. Not hanging, burning. You're close. It's not hanging, but it is strangulation. That's 3. What's the 4th one? No, that doesn't kill you. 4 capital punishments. Stoning, burning, and strangulation, and there's another one. Beheading. That's it. So those are the 4 capital punishments in Judaism, in the scriptures. So if it's not a capital punishment, it's going to always, always, always be about what? No, if it's not about capital punishment, it's going to always be about what? Money. 21:15. He who strikes his father or mother shall surely be put to death. What is it? Kavodet. Avicha. You shall honor your father and your mother. That's just for striking them. They didn't die. It's just striking them. They shall surely be put to death. 16. He who kidnaps a man, whether he sells him or he is found in his possession, shall surely be put to death. What's that? 8. You shall not steal. That's stealing a man. That's the one where it's about stealing a human. The rest of them are about money. 21:17. He who curses his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. Not even hitting them, just cursing them. Yeah, but this is like, when it says curse in Hebrew, it doesn't mean, I hate you, I never want to see you again. That's not what it's talking about. There's a lot of prerequisites, and there's a lot of things that have to be met for this to actually be cursing a father or mother. It's a big deal. 21:18. If men have a quarrel, and one strikes the other with a stone or fist, and he doesn't die, but remains in bed, if he gets up, walks around outside on his staff, then he who struck him shall go unpunished. He shall only pay for the loss of time, and shall care for him until he's completely healed. What is that? 8. Stealing. Good. 21:26. Oh, by the way, if you're not participating, it's not going to get any different. We're going to keep doing this. We got like 3 more pages, so you might as well jump in. It's not going to change. 21:26. If a man strikes the eye of his male or female slave, before I read any farther, I'm going to tell you this. The whole world has the wrong idea about eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. That's about money. Very first thing I ever learned at B'nai Zion, when I went to a Torah study, I think I'd been a believer maybe 2 years or something like that, and I had learned, what most of the Messianic Jews taught, and I thought, I want to go to synagogue. I need to be in a synagogue. So I went to synagogue, went to a Torah study at B'nai Zion, and the very first thing the rabbi said was this, that all, the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, limb for a limb, all that, it's all money. It's all about making a judgment and having the person pay the right amount of money. And it has to be righteous. And it has to be, and this is what he said, Jewish. Which is completely different from every other place on the planet that makes a judgment according to loss of eye, loss of tooth, loss of whatever. They think of it literally. The whole world does. Well, this is about money.
What if the slave is one of the other 27 genders?
He said, what if the slave is one of the other 27 genders? That's in the Talmud. It tells you. Oh, of course it is. No, there's not 27. There's 2. There's 2. Others. 2 others. Hermaphrodites, and there's another one. And it talks about that very extensively. You don't have to guess. It tells us exactly how it works. If a man strikes the eye of his male or female slave and destroys it, he shall let him go free on account of his eye. If he knocks out a tooth of his male or female slave, he shall let him go free on account of his tooth. Which one is this?
8.
This is about money. 8. 21:28. If an ox gores a man or a woman to death, if an ox gores a man or a woman to death, the ox shall be stoned, and its flesh shall not be eaten. The owner of the ox shall go unpunished. If, however, an ox had done it before, and the owner never said, hey, be careful of this ox, you might get killed, and he doesn't warn everybody, and he doesn't confine it, and it kills a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and its owner shall be put to death. Which one is this?
6.
Murder? Yes, it is. Even though it's an ox, the ox is the weapon of the person. Now, here's how far the rabbis go with this. They say the man who had the ox was pointing a weapon at the person who got gored. And that's why he must be put to death. It's not happenstance.
How did they kill the older?
This one, I'm not sure how they kill. I believe, hold on, I believe this is beheading. But you'll have to check on that. I'm not sure. I think it's beheading. So, now listen, this is, in other words, with Jews, nothing is happenstance. Nothing. God is in control of everything. And you have to have faith, and you have to have belief and trust in God that He is in control of our steps. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam me'achin matzadei gaver. Blessed are you, Lord our God, everlasting King, who directs the steps of gaver, strong men. Not just men, strong men. In other words, Jews. And that's what it's talking about. Or Gentiles who join with the Jews. And that's what it's talking about. So, those horns of the ox, they didn't just gore some dude. They gored the dude that the guy wanted the horns to gore. And that's why he's put to death. It's his weapon. 21:33. A man digs a pit and doesn't cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls into it. The owner of the pit shall make restitution to its owner, and the dead animal shall become his. What's that? 8. Stealing. Money. If a fire breaks out and spreads the thorn bushes so that stacked grain or standing grain or the whole field is eaten up, he who started the fire shall make restitution. What is that? So, how would you do that? Like, would you charge by row of acreage, row, area, corners? It's very complicated, but the rabbis tell exactly how to determine this. And labor, that's correct. There's a lot of factors that go into it. You have to calculate how long it's till the Shabbat year. That's another thing. A lot of factors that go into it. If a man gives his neighbor a donkey, an ox, a sheep, or any animal to keep for him, and it dies, or it's hurt, or it's driven away while no one is looking, an oath before the Lord shall be made by the two of them, that he has not laid hands on his neighbor's property, and its owner shall accept the judgment being of the judges, shall accept the judgment, and he shall not make restitution. Now I've got 2 blanks here. That means there's 2 that apply. What do you think? 10, you shall not covet. That is not one of them. That's a good guess, though. Good. False witness. Number 9, you shall not speak. You shall not witness falsely. You shall not say what you saw falsely. You shall not say what you heard falsely. It says they shall go before the judges and make an oath. So if the guy lies, he's oppressing his neighbor with a lie, an oath of a lie. So you got number 9, no false witness, no false words. And then also, what's the other one? No stealing. This is about money also. Going back to the pit, what? It only mentions these. A donkey, no, it mentions 3. A donkey, an ox, or a sheep, and that's all it mentions, and I don't know the answer if it includes more. I do not know.
Also, does it say sheep also? Not just ox?
Yeah, it says that here. Donkey, ox, or sheep. See it? See it on the bottom?
No, what about it? What about tractor?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're saying.
The one above it, if a man digs a pit, that's just an ox or donkey.
Oh, back on 21:34. If a man digs a pit and doesn't cover, yeah, ox or donkey, it's all it says. And I don't know if it's other animals. I don't know.
So for the sheep, you're out of luck.
I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I'm not going to even venture a guess. Okay, when it gets like this, when I say I don't know and I'm not going to venture a guess, you don't want to go there because I've read it and studied it. If you've read it and studied it, share all you want. But if you haven't, all you're going to do is spin a tornado, and who knows where it's going to end up. So you got to be careful with that. 22:16. Be careful on this one. If a man seduces a virgin who is not engaged and lies with her, he must pay a dowry for her to be his wife. What do you think? You think adultery? What do you think? Mom and dad. Honor your mom and dad. 8. No stealing. 7. No adultery.
Number 1.
Okay, it's not number 1, but it's all the other ones that you said. And it's number 10 also. Don't covet. Because it said he seduces her. And it is adultery. Because he's having sex, they're not married. And it is honor your father and mother. Because why? She belongs to the parents. That's right. That's why you got to pay a dowry. It's stealing because he doesn't pay the dowry. He's got to pay a dowry. If he doesn't, he's stealing. So it's all of them. It's all of these. This one's amazing. Very deep. Do you notice that we're not doing any pictures? Has anybody noticed that? We're not teaching like I usually teach. There's no pictures. Do you know why? The physical first and then the spiritual. That's why we're doing this.
Is that where they got the idea of always paying the dowry?
This and 2 other verses is where they got the mitzvah to always give the dowry. 22:18. You shall not allow a sorceress to live. What's this? 2, idolatry. 3, don't use God's name for vanity. 1, I am Yehovah. You go with 1 and 2? What do you think? Do you all agree? It's not false witness, I'll tell you that. It's not 9. Okay. It is definitely 2, no idolatry. But it could also be 3, depending on the person. You shall not use God's name for vanity. Using God. Now, listen, this is weird. I've talked about this before, and it always gets very confusing if you're not familiar with the story. When the Jews were on the other side of the Yarden during the 40 years, yes? They're on the other side of the Yarden. They were at a place for 37 years. What was it called? No, the place. They were at one place, one town. Not Kiryat Yearim. That's Jerusalem. It's right outside of Jerusalem. You don't remember? Kadesh. Petra. So in the modern day Petra. They were at Kadesh for 37 years, okay? Kadesh means a male temple prostitute. A homosexual prostitute for Yehovah. For Yehovah. Not for demons, for Yehovah. And that's what they named this place for. Kadesh, holy, set apart. Kadeshah are the female counterpart to that. The Kadeshah was the female prostitute in the temple for Yehovah. So they were mixing, and you know this about the northern tribes, that they mixed the idolatry of the Gentiles with the worship of Yehovah. They did both, mixed together. So, this could be a Jew it's talking about. It could be a Jew who keeps Torah that it's talking about. But it's a sorceress. And she uses her mouth and puts Yehovah in there and says, I know I'm supposed to marry the owner of, whatever. I'm supposed to marry you. Yeah, but I'm married. I've been married 36 years. God told me I'm supposed to marry you. Okay? All right, so this happens. And you got to be careful because it is the mouth and it is no idolatry, depending on the person. Do you know how the sorceress is killed? Burning? You are correct, sir. Do you know how they burnt? They make them throw up? No. Go ahead. Yes. They put them in a pit of dung up to their armpits. Yes, that's correct. They make them swallow a lit wick, and it burns them from the inside out. That's burning. Not strapping somebody to a cross and then lighting a pyre underneath and burning them. That's disgusting. But that's how they used to burn witches. It is disgusting. It's torture. But this didn't torture them, believe it or not. It didn't torture them. No, it would stay lit and it would burn them from the inside out. And how it worked, I do not know. I believe they made them drink oil, but I'm not sure. I remember reading that somewhere, but I'm not sure. So don't take my word for that. But that is how they would do it. 22:19, whoever lies with an animal shall surely be put to death. What's that? Huh? That's simple. That's 7. That's adultery. We think of it like some different category of bestiality. No, it's adultery. Pure and simple. Pure and simple. 22:19. 22:20. He who sacrifices to any god other than Yehovah alone shall be utterly destroyed. Definitely, what?
2?
Definitely 2. Right. 22:21. That was a gimme, by the way, but I didn't hear many say that was a freebie, right? 22:21. You shall not wrong a stranger or oppress him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Wrong, not 8. Good guess, though. 9? No. Good guess, though. That's why I didn't put it. I didn't put that on purpose. The very next verse says, for I am Yehovah. And that's what it is. Now, this is what I was talking about, and this is why we sang the song. Yehovah, the 4-letter name of God, Yod He Vav He, is the mercy side of God. You are Adonai, Adonai El Rachum, a God merciful. El Rachum V'chanun, gracious, full of grace. V'rav Chesed Ve'emet, high in mercy and compassion. And this is the Yehovah part. And anywhere where it describes the way we're supposed to live as Jews, but it doesn't tell you like a real clear judgment, it's always number 1. Ani Yehovah. I am the Lord. Does that make sense? 22:22. Do not afflict the widow or an orphan. If you afflict him and he does cry out to me, I'll surely hear his cry, and my anger will be kindled, and I'll kill you. That's harsh. Your wives will become widows and your children fatherless. That is harsh. Which one is that? That's the compassionate, gracious, merciful Yehovah. Because I want you to act like me, and you're not. So I'm going to get rid of you. Does that make sense? Even that is kindness and compassion. Because God wants the Jewish people to act like him. So don't afflict the widow and orphan, because I would never, never, never do that. I'm Yehovah. 22:28. Oh, yes, ma'am.
So like there's a lot of instances I'm noticing where God basically has to be harsh in order to be kind.
There's a lot of instances you're noticing as a pastor that that God has to be harsh to be kind. So I'm going to park there for a second. You're absolutely right. The job of the pastor is to discipline, because they can do it nicely. That's their job, is to discipline. And the job of the parents is to discipline. And God says, we went over this a few weeks ago, that God spanks, disciplines all those whom he loves. All, not some. And if he doesn't discipline us, we're not his children. So his nature as Yehovah is absolutely to spank. That's why you're very attentive to that, because you're a pastor. And you do that well. So it is very, very important that you understand that God's job is not to coddle you or pat you on the butt and make you feel good. That is not his job. Nor is that the job of any spiritual leader. The job is to spank. Now, doing it well is not something I'm good at, but it has to be done. It has to be done. Okay, 22:28. You shall not curse God, nor curse a ruler of your people. What's that? Number one? What, I need to hear from other people. What do you think? I've only heard. What do you think? 3? Don't use your mouth for vanity. God's name for vanity.
Couldn't it also be 5?
5, honor your mother and your father.
Because you're not supposed to curse God and God's your father.
Yes, but you're getting spiritual. Let's keep it physical. You shall not curse God, nor curse a ruler of your people. Yeah, we could do pictures with this all day long, but let's keep it physical.
Okay.
Which one is it? Which one is this? Which subheading does this fall under?
3?
9? Don't be a false witness. No lying. No oppressing your neighbor with words of lies. So, the closest is 9. You're right. You shall not oppress your neighbor, is what it says in Hebrew. You shall not oppress your neighbor with words of lies. Now, we think of cursing as like cussing. It's not cussing. It has nothing to do with cussing. Like I told you before, cursing parents, cursing God, cursing somebody, there's a lot of prerequisites for it. They make it really, really hard to kill somebody or to fine somebody or to discipline somebody with lashes for cursing. They make it very difficult to do that. Why? Because we don't want them to do that. We want to, give them the benefit of the doubt. But cursing God, we have one example in the Bible of it. Anybody know what it is? You don't know the guy's name?
Gentile
No.
son of the Egyptian father and Jewish mother.
Very good. The Egyptian father and the Jewish mother, or it might be the other way around. And he, okay, Egyptian father and Jewish mother, very good. They're in the desert, and what it says in English is he blasphemed the name. And so Moses goes, well, what do you do with this guy? And God says, take him out and stone him. That's what you're supposed to do. We only have one example. And what it says in Hebrew for what's called blasphemy is piercing, like with a sword, with a spear, piercing God. So it's like making war on God. So this is a big, big, big deal. So picture it like that. You shall not make war, pierce the name of God, or do the same thing for a ruler of your people. It's a big deal. It's not small. It's all done with the mouth. It's all done with the mouth. Okay, 23:1-3. Sorry, 22:31. You shall be holy to me. You should already know what it is. What is it?
1.
Number 1, right. Therefore you shall not eat any flesh torn to pieces in the field. Isn't that weird? Don't eat any animals that were ripped up by an animal. Why? That's not like me. I ain't like that. Don't do that. You shall throw it to the dogs. Throw it to the dogs. Yes, number 1. 23:1-3. You shall not bear a false report. You should already know what it is. What is it? 9. Okay, but let's read more. Do not join your hand with a wicked man to be a malicious witness. You shall not follow the masses in doing evil. That's mob mentality. That's what bearing false witness leads to. Always, 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 it leads to mob mentality. Yes?
Is that like when people perjure themselves in court?
Think bigger. You said, is that like people perjuring themselves in court? Think bigger. the white man has oppressed us for 400 years, 200 some years. And it's time for us to get what we're due. Right? White person? Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'll go with you. I'll go with you on that. Okay. Let's have a riot in the street. Let's burn the city down. Mob mentality. It all starts with a false witness. It all starts with what's called a narrative. And it doesn't matter who it's against. It could be against Jews or blacks or Puerto Ricans or Chinese. It doesn't matter. It's always started by a bad narrative. The Nazis did this. They were brilliant at it. To invent a story, whisper it in the newspapers, and it becomes mob mentality. That's bearing false witness. I like this one. But then it brings it back down smaller. You shall not follow the masses in doing evil, nor shall you testify in a dispute to turn aside after a multitude, that's the mob mentality, in order to twist justice, nor, makes it small now, nor be partial to a poor man in his dispute. In other words, you hook up with somebody who's poor and they're like, oh, you're complaining about this person or that person. You need to side with me because I feel bad from that person. Don't side with them. Don't do it. That's Lashon Hara. That's what a bad narrative is. It's Lashon Hara. And that's what number 9 ultimately is. It's always, always, always Lashon Hara, and it always, always, always leads to mob mentality. This is why congregations break up. They break up because of Lashon Hara. One person puts out a seed, another person, and they go, yeah, I feel bad because, and they go, oh, I feel bad for you too. It says, do not take up that cause. It's Lashon Hara. It's a bad judgment. And it's going to eventually lead to mob mentality. 22:4. If you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey wandering away, you shall surely return it to him. You should know what it is already. What is it? Stealing. Right, it's stealing. Number 8. If you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey wandering, if you meet your enemies, now this is not what it says in Hebrew. You know what it says? If you meet, no, it says just the opposite. If you meet the ox or donkey of someone you hate, sinah, someone you hate, well, that presupposes what? That you hate them. That you know them, of course, but that you hate them. It doesn't say don't hate them, does it? No. Does it? We haven't finished it, but I'll show you. 22:4. If you meet your enemy's ox, if you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey wandering away, you shall surely return it to him. If you see the donkey of one who hates you, they hate you, return it to him. If you see the donkey of one who hates you lying under its load, don't leave it to him. Help him out. Release it. Now, this presupposes that you hate somebody and that person hates you. And nowhere does it say you need to change your heart, does it? Does it? We just read the whole thing. It doesn't say it. And it doesn't say it after this either. And it doesn't say it in any other passages either. You know why? You're allowed to hate. Now, there's a lot of things that have to meet that criteria, like they have to be wicked. Like it says in Proverbs, love righteousness and hate wickedness. It doesn't say tolerate wickedness, does it? It says hate wickedness. Hate it. One of my very favorite verses in Psalms, it's under Mem. I think it's the last verse of Mem, Psalm 119. It says, oh, how I love your Torah. That's the first verse in it, in Mem. And then the last verse in Mem, you know what it says? Therefore I hate every false way. I'm like, wow, I mean, what a sandwich. Love on top and hate on the bottom. What a trip. But it's okay to hate evil people. In fact, we're supposed to. Now, them hating us, they hate us because we're righteous. And it says, if you see a donkey or an ox or something, some kind of load and they hate you, don't walk away. Go help them. That's exactly what Yeshua said. He said, if your enemy tells you, if your enemy slaps you on the face, we'll go with that one because it's better. If your enemy slaps you on your face, your enemy, what are you supposed to do? Give him the other cheek to slap. Yes? If your enemy asks you to go a mile with him, what are you supposed to do? Go 2. This is from the Torah. This is Yehovah. Loving, gracious, merciful, compassionate, hating evil at the same time. That's pretty cool. That's very balanced. All right, 23:6. You shall not pervert justice due to your needy brother in a dispute. Keep far from a false charge, and don't kill the innocent or the righteous. I will not acquit the guilty. Which one is that? What do you say? 9? Don't do false witness. What do you say? Do you agree with him? Yeah? Absolutely. This is all 9. You shall not pervert justice. That's about the mouth. Because it's justice. It's before the judge. Your needy brother in a dispute. Where does a dispute go? To the court, to the judge. Keep far from a false charge. Same thing. Don't kill the innocent or the righteous. I'm not going to acquit the guilty. This is all about bearing false witness. 23:9. You shall not oppress a stranger, since you know the feelings of a stranger, and you were also strangers in the land of Egypt. Everybody should know what this is. What is it? What is it? Come on. Number 1. Absolutely. 23:10. You shall sow your land for 6 years, gathering its yield, but on the 7th year you should let it rest and lie fallow. You should also already be yelling it out to me what it is, so that the needy of your people may eat and whatever they leave. The beasts of the field can eat. You are to do the same with your vineyard and your olive grove. What is it? Keeping the Shabbat year. But look why. For the poor, for the needy, for the animals. Well, hold on. The main one is Shabbat, right? We could also apply this to like 4 others. But what we're trying to do is just right now just determine which of the 10 chapters it goes under. We can parse these out like crazy. But right now I just want to do the physical. Just real simple. Sorry to pull the reins, but just got to keep it simple right now. But I appreciate that. 23:13. Now concerning everything I've said to you, be on your guard, and don't mention the name of other gods or let them be heard from your mouth. What is it?
2.
What is it?
2.
Okay. So, I've heard people go nuts with this and get crazy and say, don't say Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, because Monday is named after, I can't remember that one. Tuesday is Thor. No, that's Thursday. Thursday is Thor. Come on. Monday's Moon Day. Okay, Monday's the moon. So this is insanity. This is all about being normal. We're trying to be normal and balanced and learn how to walk normally, not get crazy. 23:14. Now, so my point was this. When it says don't let them be heard from your mouth, that means in worship. In other words, don't do idolatry. Don't worship the other gods. Don't be a kadosh or a kadosha, like the male and female temple prostitutes. Don't do idolatry. 23:14. 3 times a year you shall celebrate a chag to me. Chag hamatzot, feast of harvest, of first fruits. Chag hakatzir bikorei. The feast of ingathering. Chag ha'asaf. At the end of the year when you gather in the fruit of your labors from the field. 3 times a year, all your males shall appear before Yehovah your God. What is it?
4.
Number 1. Number 4.
4.
Number 4?
Celebrate the feast.
So we have a division in the congregation between 1 and 4. It's number 4. How do we know? Because there are 7 Shabbaton. Shabbaton, right? Festivals. These are 3 of them. These are the 3 that you go up to Jerusalem for. But these are Shabbaton, so it's Shabbat. 23:18, you shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread. Always with matzah. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, nor is the fat of my chag to remain overnight until morning. What's this? You think 4? 1? I'm Yehovah. What do you think? 2? No idolatry? It's not idolatry, I'll tell you that. So it's between 1, I am Yehovah, and 4, Shabbat. Why Shabbat? Because it says my chag, yes? Is that what you're keying off of? Yeah, but this is for every sacrifice, every day, twice a day. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice twice a day, once in the morning, once at night, and then anytime you bring a sacrifice, with leavened bread, always with matzah. Yeah, always a daily sacrifice. Nor is the fat of my chag to remain overnight until morning. So this is, you guys are 100% right. It's both. It's Ani Adonai, I am the Lord, and it's the Shabbat, because it says Chag. That's a festival. That is a Shabbat. So it's both. Here comes a big one. You are not to boil a young goat in the milk of its mother. 6, no murder. What'd you say? 1, I am Yehovah. 2, no idolatry. That's it. 4, Shabbat. It's not Shabbat, I'll tell you that. 10, no coveting. Okay. This one.
Is it 5? Because the kid had a mom?
5, because the kid had a mom. Oh, it says you shall honor your mother and father, not the kid's mother and father. Nice try there, buddy. But that's getting spiritual, and we don't want to get spiritual right now. We want to just be physical. Let's get physical. That's it? Is that all the choices? Okay, very good. Next one. 23:31. This one is number 1. I am Yehovah your God. It is a chok. Now a chok is what the Jewish people think, just the opposite of a chok, of what it is. They say that it's a law that we're given, that you're given no explanation of, no rationale, no reason for it. You just go, yes, sir, I will obey you and do it. That's what they think a chok is. This is a chok. No rationale given. We're told to do it, and yes, I will do it. Chok literally means to chop into. That's what the word chok means. Chakak, which means literally to chop into. The word chok, guess what it means? To chop a picture into the ground. To make a boundary, or literally a picture. It literally means a painting, a picture, or a sculpture. Just the opposite of I don't know what it is. So it's supposed to be something very, very, very clear to us. This is a chok. Yes?
So this verse appears 3 times. Doesn't one of them say, because that is what the nations do?
I don't know. You'll have to look that up for yourself. What he said was, it appears 3 times, and doesn't one of them say, for that is what the nations do? Look it up and find out. Now, all the chokim, all of them, they don't give a rationale for it. Every one of them is number 1. I am Yehovah your God. How do we know? Because we're not told anything about it. That's how we know it's number 1. This is how God is. He wants you to be like him, so he says, be like me. And don't do that. 23:31-32. I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you will drive them out before you. You shall make no covenant with them or with their gods. They shall not live in your land, because they will make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it will surely be a snare to you. I got two blanks. So what two?
1 and 2.
You're going to say 1 and 2, I am Yehovah, no idolatry? Any other opinions? We all agree with Rebecca? Wow. You're all of one mind and one accord. You say just number 1? There's 2 dashes. So you're saying 1 and 2? That's what she said? Okay, you're 100% right. Absolutely right. It's number 1 and number 2. I'm Yehovah and no idolatry. So the reason we did this is 2 reasons. Number 1, we need to start thinking physical first. If you go spiritual too fast, you lose your mind and you get unbalanced and you get kind of weird. Say that again?
Too much honey makes you sick.
Very good. Too much honey makes you sick. That's right. That's what it says in Proverbs. You got to stay balanced. You got to just keep your wits about you and just be normal and think down to earth. We got to go to the judge. We got to get a decision. We got to figure out what's right and what's wrong. And then you can maybe see a picture in it. That's the first reason. The second reason is this. For the most part, in our lives, we have gotten milk, but we were told it was meat. I'm sorry, I have it backwards. For the most part in our lives, we got meat, and we were told it was milk. Love. How to love and how to, just show love to people. That's not milk. That's meat. And it says in Hebrews that meat is only for those who are trained by the Torah. Trained by use of the Torah. Babies don't eat meat. Babies eat milk. We can't even deal with physical things. How are we going to deal with spiritual stuff? You don't even know which, like when you're reading in the Torah, you don't even know where to put it. You don't even know how to picture it in your head because you've been told meat your whole life. So was I. And so it's hard to switch gears and just go physical. Does that make sense? So we need to look at the physical first and then the spiritual. That's the covenant. The Torah is the covenant. It's physical first and then spiritual. Then the pictures. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm trying to, start training you by use. It says those who train by use of the Torah can eat some meat. But you got to have the milk first. We're doing milk. This is milk. Foundational, Judaism. There's no such thing as the milk of human kindness. It's the milk of Torah. Milk of Torah. Okay, now, right after all those words in Mishpatim, we're going to go through the entire Torah portion today. We haven't done that in years and years. So, and then in 24, 1 through 8, it talks about what happens next. And what happens next is, guess what? The covenant. Then he said to Moshe, come up to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and you will worship at a distance. Moshe alone, however, shall come near to Yehovah. Then Moshe came and recounted to the people all the words of Yehovah and all the Mishpatim, and all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which Yehovah has spoken, we will do. That's all they say. We'll do it. Yes?
He called on 70 elders of the 70 of the elders of Israel. Are they supposed to be a picture of 70 nations?
No. No. These are not the 70 elders representing the 70 nations. These are the 70 elders that passed down the Torah to the Sanhedrin. Just like there's 70 nations, there are 70 leaders of Israel. It's just a one-to-one correspondence. Okay. All right. So all they say is, all the words that the Lord has said, we will what? They will do. Physical first. That's all they said. We'll do it. That's all they said. Moshe wrote down all the words of Yehovah. Then he arose early in the morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain with 12 pillars of the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the sons of Israel, and they offered olot, burnt offerings, and they sacrificed young bulls as shlamim, peace offerings to Jehovah. Who did that before them? Before Moshe? Oh, you better not forget. We did it last week. No, we did it last week. Yitro. Remember? And I said, well, how does he know how to do that? He converted to Judaism. So now Moshe is doing it. Moshe took half the blood and put it in basins. Half the blood. What did he do with the rest? He sprinkled on the altar. So now he's got half the blood in bowls, right? And half of the blood has been sprinkled on the altar. This is what he did with it. Then they sprinkled it on all the people. Then he took the book of the covenant. What's the covenant? Torah, or Moses. So he takes the book of the covenant and he reads it in the hearing of the people. Now they say, the second time, Na'aseh v'nishma. All that the Lord has spoken, we will do it, and then we'll listen. We'll do it first, and then we'll listen to it. What comes first, physical or spiritual? The doing, the physical. It has to come first, the doing of Judaism. It has to. And then we'll see the picture in it. But you got to do the thing first. And that's what they're saying. They're saying, we accept the covenant, which is doing that stuff, and then we'll listen to it. That's the covenant. So Moshe took the blood, sprinkled it on the people, and said, behold, the blood of the covenant. Now don't picture he took like bowls and just threw it on everybody. It says in Hebrews that he used hyssop and scarlet and water.
Oh, like a Passover?
Yeah, just like at Passover. So Moshe took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, behold, the blood of the covenant, which Jehovah made with you in accordance with what words?
Look at the covenant of the Torah.
The 10 Devarim and Mishpatim. The 10 Devarim, which is basically all 613 mitzvot. But it's not. It's chapter headings. So, here's my point, I hope. Only Torah, which is Moses, or the covenant, lets us live a heavenly life. I'm going to say this again. What we're used to is meat, not milk. Meat is spiritual things, how to love, how to be kind, how to, I don't know, all the kind of mystical things that you've been told that you can't quite get your head wrapped around, but you think you do understand, but you're not quite sure because maybe I'm not doing it right, but I think I am. I've been told this all my life, so I must be doing it. Well, maybe I'm not. That stuff. That's meat. You have to have milk first, and milk is the Torah. 24, 3 through 10. We looked at this last week. Moshe brought back all the words of the people to Yehovah, and he said to Moshe, I will come to you in a thick cloud, so that the people may hear when I speak with you, and they may have faith in you, Moshe, not in Christ. In you, Moshe, forever. That is a freaky verse. It's just freaky. It's freaky. I mean, think about how weird that is. God said to Moses, I want everybody to believe in you forever. Very few people believe in Moses. I mean, believe in him. Not like, yeah, I believe he lived. I mean, believe in him. Like people say they believe in Jesus. Believe in Moshe. That's a freaky verse. So he says that they may have faith, aman, understanding in you forever. That's the covenant. Moshe is the covenant. Torah is the covenant. And then in Hebrews 3, it says the very same thing. I'm going to say it again. I said it last week. Our apostle and high priest, talking about Yeshua, he was faithful to the one who appointed him, just like Moshe was faithful in all God's house. Yeshua has been found worthy of greater honor than Moshe, just like the builder of the house has greater honor than the house. Therefore, who's the builder of the house? And who's the house? In the New Testament, in the book of Hebrews, Moshe is the house of God? That's a trip. That's a trip. I mean, it's just amazing that God says over and over that Moses is the house of God. Moses is the covenant. Moses is the root of everything and all we're supposed to do, see, speak, understand, and live. That's a lot to put on that dude's shoulders. But people have no problem putting that on the shoulders of Jesus Christ, who's not even Yeshua. We'll put all that on his shoulders, and he'll be fine with it. But they won't put that on Moshe's shoulders, who God said he wants it on his shoulders. You see what I'm saying? This is amazing. It's just amazing that God wants all of his people hooked in tight with Moshe and with Torah. So tight that you believe in him forever. Now, this is why I'm focusing on the physical. Because you've heard the spiritual your whole life. Now it's time to start looking at the Torah physically and start figuring out how things really were physically. And then your mind will be, enmeshed, like gears that mesh together with the rest of the Jews on the planet. Because that's what they're doing. They're studying the Talmud to get to know what did Moshe get from God. And then believers come along, they don't know anything about anything, Jewish, and they think they've got something better. They don't. We don't. We don't. It's a world of lies. Those who are enmeshed with the gears of the way God set it up, those are the ones who get the blessing of God. That's what we read earlier. Those are the ones who ride on the heights of the earth and get the blessing of Jacob. So, that's what I want you to do. That's your homework. I'm a teacher. That's your homework, kids. You need to go study physical. You got to start figuring out this stuff physically. Go listen to the rabbis online talk about the Torah, and you'll start seeing it more physically. Now, you can then apply all the pictures that God shows you and that you've learned. You can do that. But you've got to know the physical first. Let's pray. Thank you, Abba, for your Torah, for your Ruach. Thank you, Father, that it's the physical first and then the spiritual, not the other way around. And I ask that you to open our minds so that we can comprehend and see how Torah is done, and to really start parsing your Torah to see what's going on, how things work. What does the Hebrew say? What did the rabbis say? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I thank you for that, Abba. And I ask that you'd open our hearts all over the world. Open your people's hearts to Judaism, to Yahadut. In the name of Yeshua. Amen. Let's stand for the Amidah. Darn it, the Aleinu. Well, I get it half the time. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, l'tet gedula yelotzer bereshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama. שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. Let us adore the Lord of all, who in greatness created the world from of old, that he has not made us like the nations of the earth, not made us like the families of the land. He has not made our destiny like theirs, or cast our lot with all of them. Last paragraph. We acknowledge before the King of Kings that there is none like him. There is nothing but him, as Torah says. Know that the Lord, he is God in the heavens above and on the earth beneath. Ein od milvado. There is nothing else but him. Shabbat shalom.